Great, perfect.
Great, glad we got that sorted. Well, welcome everybody to the July edition
Yes.
of What's New in Creative AI.
You said those letters the wrong way around. You said them so many times.
Oh, yeah. IA, Create AI. Anyway, we're coming to you today from sunny Suffolk. And believe it or not, it feels almost as hot today as it did in the south of France a couple of weeks ago when we were at Cannes.
Yeah.
Because guess what? This is the Cannes special edition. Now, some of you are probably sick to the eyeballs. Can you be sick to your eyeballs?
I think it's back teeth.
Back teeth
Is
of
that the right expression?
talk about Cannes. So, tune out. No, joke. The truth is, we have distilled down the key themes from Cannes, especially as how AI applies to marketing and agency life and what you need to be thinking about. So we think this is going to be super valuable.
Yep.
We were out there getting the pulse of the industry and we're bringing it back to you.
Yeah, when we were there, we had a laser focus on exactly what you need to know. So that's what we're bringing you today.
Laser.
Yeah.
So, Emma, what did we pick up in Cannes?
Well, there are 4 big themes. Firstly, why culture change is really the hardest part of AI and really getting the most out of it, not which model you choose. Secondly, that creative AI or use of AI in creative is just kind of quietly normal now. It's gone mainstream. And a lot of chat about workflows.
I never thought I would hear the word workflow spoken at a creative conference, but it came up a lot.
I know. I mean, we use it all the time. Often feels a bit awkward in a creative setting, but not now, not anymore. It's really around how we got to redesign work, as in the processes we use to get the real benefits from AI. We'll tell you loads more about that and really practical tips. And that AI is now actually changing business models and pricing.
Yeah.
No more chat about it. It's actually happening. So you've got some
Yeah,
real
half the
examples to point to.
convos were about pricing. So we'll dive into that.
Before we dive in, I want to say that everything we're talking about today, I've written up in Spark Intelligence newsletter as well.
The newsletter.
So if you prefer the written word rather than podcast, then please dive into that.
But for those of you that are walking the dog and listening on your headphones, let's go.
Yeah.
Right. So theme 1, cultural change. We've been banging on about cultural change being perhaps the most important element of AI adoption for quite a while.
I mean, it was the whole reason we set up our business, basically.
What were they talking about in Cannes?
Yeah, so no one's really asking like what tool are you using anymore, which one's best, all that stuff that we've been hearing for the last couple of years. Really now all the talk is about culture change, behaviour change, how to harness people in AI. So one great example is one agency measured how much efficiency they could make by just bolting in AI to an existing workflow, an existing process they've got. And they measured that they get a roughly 20% efficiency just by adding AI into an existing way they did things.
20%, win.
Pretty good, yeah. That equals a lot of money, but potentially if they use it well. But they found that when they redesigned the whole process, now that AI is in the world, factoring that in, looking at how they could do things differently now, their efficiency was 6 times what it was before, as in it was
600%.
Exactly.
Yeah. This ties in with research we've seen coming out of Stanford University. They did a controlled experiment with 500 startups over the course of about 12 months, where they trained all of the startups on how to use tools like ChatGPT, but half of them they also gave training on how to reconfigure workflows. And the difference in outcomes between those 2 cohorts over the next 6 months was dramatic. And in fact, the cohort that got workflow redesign included in their training ended up, the headline figure was 1.9 times as much revenue on average as the ones that didn't. So dramatic. So rethinking work. Yeah.
So this is basically exactly what our AI accelerator is there to do. This is what we do, isn't it? This workflow redesign with AI.
Yeah, we take leadership teams through that and teach teams how to map their own workflows too.
Yeah. So really, what was coming across is that the constraint about how much return on investment you get from AI is human. It's down to us. It's down to our habits, our processes, our org charts, how we've tied people into sort of roles that are fixed in the past. Not necessarily about the AI models at all. Probably if the AI models stood still now and we just changed how we work around them, we would get incredible value.
I often say this in workshops, that even if every AI developer walked away from their desk tomorrow, it would still take us years to fully extract the value you can get from the technology as it is today.
The other stat that was flying around all the time, as it is in the press often, is that 90% of 95% of AI pilots fail. And often that's cited as a bit of a reason not to bother trying. But
it's a really flawed study where that headline came from,
yeah,
by the way, just as a heads up.
It really is. But also, even though that study is flawed, what it found is that that 95% failure rate is mostly down to just people not being set up to work with AI well. And, the process is not changing.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So there we go. It's all about changing processes. It's all about good old change management. It's all about process redesign.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was on a panel at Beamer House where Anne Stagg, the CEO of Digitas UK, said, last year everyone was saying just get your teams to experiment and try this stuff. But actually, that almost causes more nervousness and more barriers than anything, because people then struggle to get good outputs out of this stuff because they haven't learned how to work with it properly. So actually giving people the comfort and the structure around them to actually be able to move forwards with it is really important.
Yeah. Oh, hang on, our computer's just gone off and we have a few notes here, what I wanted to say.
Great.
Bear with us.
So over to me now.
Yeah, the next point then was around creative AI going quietly mainstream.
That's right. So last year there was a lot of talk about, what AI models were doing, and was AI content ever going to go mainstream, and how were we going to protect the craft? And the conversation had moved on quite a bit this year.
Massively.
It was no longer kind of human versus machine, what was going to happen. It was much more about how do we create brilliant work, and understanding that AI was pretty much always going to play a part in that somewhere along the line. And there were some interesting points of view which I think came up. So Noel Bunting, creative director at Publicis London, on a panel at LBB Beach, talked about how AI has now made mediocrity free. So the floor has risen, and so now nobody's impressed by the fact that you used AI to do something. They're impressed by the idea. So how are we using AI to actually leverage us to be able to create new ideas? And I think we saw that in the festival as a whole. There were far fewer demos of tech. It was much more about showing brilliant creative outputs, which I think was really interesting. I mean, last year, showing that you'd used AI could be the clever bit. Now it's about the ideas being human, but using AI to help you get there, which I think is pretty interesting. Even Sir Martin Sorrell, on a panel at Monk's Cafe, said, AI is raising the standard, so there's less dross around, but when everybody has access to the same stuff, then the human dimension actually matters more, not less. So you've got to come up with brilliant ideas.
By the way, if you're going to Cannes next year, Monk's Cafe is a really great place to hear great content about AI.
Yeah.
It's one of our favourites for it.
And the other great place is LBB Beach, where even though they don't program many AI talks, inevitably AI creeps into a lot of the conversations.
They have brilliant panellists there.
They do.
And Beamer House has some brilliant panels this year. Yeah,
really, really good at Beamer House, and I'll come on to some of that later. But I think we're also starting to see some institutional signals that AI is playing a much stronger role in the creative process. Even the actual Cannes Lions Awards themselves now have a special AI craft subcategory in them. It's not a standalone lion yet, but it does have a dedicated category inside all of the other craft awards, design, digital, film, creative, etc. So, and interestingly, to qualify for it, you're not allowed to submit a project where AI was just used as a bit of a production shortcut because it was quicker or cheaper. You're only allowed to submit projects where AI was integral to the work, and actually you couldn't really have produced the work without AI. So I think that's a really great distinction that the Cannes Lions team have put in there. So I actually got the chance, whilst we're at Cannes, at Beamer House, to catch up with Toby, who's the founder of Made by Humans. They're an AI production company that work with brands and agencies to deliver AI-forward creative projects. So we'll cut to that, and then we'll be back. Great. There we go. We're rolling.
Amazing.
Live from Cannes. Great. Well, super excited here to have a few minutes with Toby Walsh, the Chief Executive and Founder of Made by Humans. Toby, tell me a little bit about Made by Humans and what you guys are doing here at Cannes.
Yeah. Well, Made by Humans, I think on the surface is this generative AI production company, but I don't think I ever set out to found an AI company. It was more that, I work in a creative space and AI was this new evolving tool. So I set out to make a creative production business, and AI happened to be the tool that I wanted that business to focus on. AI has absolutely blown up from being a completely useless tool at the start that I just thought was fun to something that we're now making, full AI commercials on TV.
I think Nano Banana was the first real change in capability, wasn't it? And now we're seeing models like Seed Dance or Video that suddenly are able to kind of interpret the world much more
and we're seeing
effectively.
We're seeing so many new models all the time that it's really tough to keep up.
Yeah, there is a lot of R&D involved if you have a career in AI, right?
Yeah.
So tell me, you represent AI artists and connect them with brands and agencies that want to do AI productions.
Yeah, so it's kind of worked out more that we're a studio and people come to us like they would, say, a production company or a post house going, hey, we've got this problem we need solving. We think AI could be an interesting route to do that. And we have some of the world's leading AI artists as part of our roster, and then we pull them in, depending on the type of genre or their skill sets for relevant projects. But I think this is a big misconception with AI, that it's one artist that can tackle it. And then we do often get calls that are like, hey, we'd like to have Billy for a week. It's like, cool, what do you expect to achieve in that week with one artist?
Yeah, Billy Bowman is one of the great artists working with Made by Humans, and we'll be talking to him later this week.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I think that's a misconception I'm trying to educate our clients on more and more. When they see actual production schedules that span weeks and months, they're like, okay, so this is just a different way of getting to the end result, but it's still time consuming, still has cost implications.
And a lot of human input along the way.
Tons.
Right?
I mean, look, there's a reason our business is called Made by Humans.
Yeah, I really like that you've done that.
I mean, it was very intentional. So there's a huge human requirement in certainly in our side of the AI world.
Yeah.
It's a creative.
It's a creative
endeavor,
discipline, right? Yeah. Just using different tools to achieve the outcome. I was curious. Then, we work with a lot of agencies, and we help train up their creative teams. But to reach the levels of expertise that your team have requires constant practice, experimentation, working on live projects, testing new models, all of those things. I'm curious, what do you feel are some of when agencies or brands come to you with a project, what are some of the misconceptions they might have? What are some of the things you perhaps need to educate them on a little bit sometimes so they understand what they're buying?
Well, I'll put it a slightly different way perhaps, but I think when I started Made by Humans, I had the misconception or the misunderstanding that copywriters might be the best AI artists.
Because they were strong at language.
Brilliant at language, But actually, as the tools become more complex and have more control, actually people with VFX heads have a place in it as well, because it's understanding how that thing, I don't know if you play with Weavy or Comfy or any of those tools, but they're like a nodal-based system.
We use Weavy a lot and actually train creative teams on using it. Yeah.
You can absolutely do a single prompt, something out of Mid-Journey, and be like, that's pretty cool. But when you're dealing with brands that need to have a consistent character wearing exactly that wardrobe at the location that they shot in last year's campaign,
and the product needs to actually look like the product.
To be exact. And they want the camera move to do exactly one thing. That isn't a Mid-Journey or a simple Nano Banana prompt. That is going to require a nodal-based approach. And that nodal-based approach looks very similar to an Autodesk Flame background, if you've workflow, if you've ever seen that. So VFX people, I think, have a space. And then we started going into it even more, and we're like, actually, directors are key here.
You've got to have a vision.
You've still got to have a vision. especially when you've got clients that are as demanding as clients should be, they're paying.
Yep.
You need someone that can interpret that.
So you were saying, producing a high quality AI creative output is, it's not a one person job. What are the roles involved in a typical project?
Yeah. So typically, let's say we're doing a 30-second commercial, we'll have an AI director, so that would be your lead that's looking after the vision, and often they are also on the tools, they're also making, but sometimes
they're
not.
responsible for making sure it tells the story it needs to tell.
Yeah, and responsible for the team that's underneath them, and depending on the complexity, we'll have at least 2 other artists, but sometimes 4 or 5. It really does depend on what we're doing. And then again, we have all these traditional roles. You've got producers, production managers, you've got editors, composers, VFX. In fact, something that we've been doing a lot with since moving into AI is working more with storyboard artists. And lots of people are like, why would you need a storyboard artist? AI can do that. AI isn't brilliant at giving you your first composition exactly as you wanted.
Yeah.
So if you can use a storyboard artist to give you your framing, even if it's stick figures, you can then give that to AI as this is my composition for frame 1.
Yeah.
And that's really helpful.
Interestingly, I was at the AI Summit. I gave a talk at the AI Summit in London a few weeks ago, and went to a talk about AI production. And one of the producers there highly recommended starting with hand-drawn stamps on keyframes as well, from not just to direct the model more effectively, but also to ensure you own the IP for what you're creating.
It's interesting. I think that's a big conversation that I have to talk a lot of business affairs people down with, the legal and those things. And we're called Made by Humans for a reason. There's humans that are doing this work, but absolutely, if you're not doing things like storyboards, and you're just typing in a prompt and that's your shot, then you're going to get yourself into all sorts of copyright issues. But that's not how we build stuff. We our clients will experience something that feels very familiar to them if they're
in a production
live action
background.
before. So we do casting decks. Everyone's made in AI. We do location decks that feel like you've been on a scout, and they circle the things they like, and we eventually get to the result. But the problem.
So the commissioning process isn't so different from a traditional shoot.
Look, absolutely. Currently, it's not. I think once everyone's done their first AI project and understands the pipeline, maybe we can condense those or do away with some of those moments. But I think that's part of the craft of it as well. Being able to go, that's the exact person that I want in this film, and that's the location I want. That's us crafting that scene. The problem with it, because it's AI and not real life, is clients can and will comment on anything they want.
Because they can change anything, they want to change everything.
Absolutely. If your casting requires a white middle-aged man with a beard...
2 fine examples right here.
If that person doesn't come through your casting room in real life, you're picking someone that came through that day.
Yeah.
Whilst in
you've
AI...
You've got your 10 choices.
Yeah, these are your 10 choices. But in AI, I like that guy's nose and that guy's ears, and you're making some sort of Frankenstein by the end. And that is a big problem.
So, back to us.
Thanks, Toby. The other buzzword at Cannes was workflow.
I was going to introduce you, but we said it in the introduction saying that we're going to talk about this, but we still need to talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Do you want to? Your best position for this one, I think.
So one of the big words going around was workflow, which I've never heard spoken there before. But everybody was starting to understand that, this stuff does change the way that you work, or you have to change the way that you work to leverage it well.
Do you think management consultancies are going to be really pleased that workflow is made out of their consultancy, or are they going to be upset?
My 8 years as a management consultant is actually worthwhile in the creative sector.
Yeah.
So, a lot of what people do today is point AI at existing challenges, and it can certainly help with those things, either improving the speed a bit, improving the quality a bit, or often improving both. But to get the real value out of it, you've got to redesign the work. What should be human, what should be the AI, and one of the biggest challenges is how do you encode the sort of the tacit knowledge, I like to call it, that sits in people's heads.
It's a great word.
That is, I came across it a few weeks ago, and I decided that explains it perfectly. This tacit knowledge, and all agencies and marketing teams have this, like ways of doing things or understanding what good looks like. It's not written down anywhere, but people know it if they see it. And how do you get that out of people's heads and into a form that your AI tools can understand and comprehend? And that's the key to getting the value out of AI. And so one speaker, Dr. Laura Weiss from WPP.
She was fantastic.
Yeah, Emma went to
Really
this talk
great
actually.
speaker. Yeah.
And we often talk in our workshops about how with AI, to get the value out of AI, you've got to put a bit of more work in up front to get the value off the back. And she had a great way of describing that. She said, working with AI is like moving, if you can imagine your process going from left to right, you're moving all the decisions to the left, and then you're putting all the activity to the right. So you're setting the standards, describing the task, setting the goals and outputs up front.
But you're also deciding up front what's done by people and what's done by an agent as
Absolutely.
well. You can take the decisions like right at the start.
And then the execution happens after that, and you can set AI off and it will come back with something valuable. So I think that's a really interesting way of thinking it. Decisions to the left, execution to the right.
Really helpful for us visual thinkers.
I think it's also really important to think about the right kind of work that you're pointing AI at, and this came up a bit, and especially on a panel that I was on with the Indie Forum, looking at speaking to the indie agency contingent there.
It was the Network One's panel, wasn't it?
Run by the Network One,
Yeah.
by the brilliant guys at Network One. So, and this is, we often see agencies trying to point AI at the wrong task, and by that I mean. And we're back. Believe it or not, yeah, we overheated and our camera overheated.
That was the main.
Yeah, poor little Osmo. He did that in Cannes as well. Anyway, here we are. We're back. Where was I? Yeah, so agencies often point this stuff at the wrong kind of task. We see this with in our workshops where we work with a strategy team, for example, and they're all desperate to try and get AI to help them come up with strategic concepts for a brief. And that's the worst thing you can be pointing AI at. That is the very, very reason your client has come to you to help come up with brilliant concepts and brilliant strategic positioning. You want to be pointing at AI at all the things that help you get there and all the things that stop you from getting there. Use it to help you with the research. Use it to find the insights across the research. Use it to, once you've got a concept, use it to test it. Use it to see what it looks like across touch points. Test it against audience personas. Don't use it for the very thing that your client has paid the most money for. So, worth bearing in mind. So, one other thing, this idea of sort of putting the work in up front and then letting it, so that you've got more capability from the AI downstream is very much how you start to work, especially when you start to use some of the newer tools like Claude Co-work, which has become very popular since it launched in February, I think. We certainly use it a lot within Spark. Yeah. And one of the big bits of news, lots of the teams we work with that are using Microsoft Copilot have often felt a little bit frustrated that they don't have access to some of the stuff that's available in ChatGPT or Claude or others. So one big bit of news is that Claude Co-work is now available directly within Copilot Co-work. So I sat down with Tracy Kylon, the head of AI for advertising at Microsoft, and got her to talk me through what that meant. Great, so I've got a few minutes now with Tracy Kylon, who heads up AI for advertising at Microsoft. And we're going to talk a little bit about what Microsoft have, some of the developments at Microsoft around Copilot and around their advertising platform. So yeah, a lot of our clients are Copilot users. They're in a Microsoft environment. And it's quite exciting, some of the developments that have landed in Copilot recently, especially I think Co-work.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about that and how you see that changing the way kind of people work with AI?
Yeah, definitely. So firstly, I can't live without it.
Yeah.
It is my companion, and it helps me every day to achieve what I want to achieve.
Yep.
And it plays into lots of parts of that. But let me just pause for a moment and say the fundamental change that I can see or I personally feel when I'm using it is it's moving us away from like prompting and just sort of using an agent as a chat to actually delegating.
Yep.
Like it can actually work alongside you and actually complete stuff for you.
So rather than just sort of suggesting how you might do
Yes,
something, it can actually
exactly.
help you do it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And you know what? The output is pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd
it gets
agree.
better every day.
Surprisingly good.
Yeah, it's so fantastic. And you know, I'll give an example if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
So, you know, we're here at Cannes, there's a big briefing, we're fed a lot of information. Sometimes that can be a bit overwhelming. So I took all of that information, I went into co-work, I did some vibe coding, and I created a Cannes hub.
Right.
I basically brought all the sources and knowledge and everything through, but the bit that was really cool is that I was able to use a skill that was pre-built so that then the output was on brand and in line with all of the wonderful visuals that you see here in our beautiful Microsoft gardens.
Amazing.
And that took me minutes.
Yeah. Tell me about skills, because that's something that's new to Copilot, right?
Yeah. So you build the skill. So in this case, this was the MAI skill. So the design of the brand, the color, the font, like all the things that you would expect in something that was on brand.
Yep.
So that was a design skill.
So MAI, you mean Microsoft AI?
Yes,
Yep.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, so your brand.
Yeah, our
Yep.
brand. So when I did the hub first time, it had a black background, it wasn't on brand, it didn't have the right font, and I felt that bringing that up and guiding our customers through that probably wouldn't have been the best experience. So I was like, oh, hang on a minute, I'll go and see if there's a skill. So we have like a repository
Yep.
of skills
Yep.
that you can tap into. So basically what I did is I then said, okay, I want you to rebuild the hub based on all of the same information, but I want you to use this skill. And what you do is you upload the skill, and then it knows that it needs to be designed to that skill.
Got it.
And these skills can be anything.
Yeah, they're just text files,
Yeah,
aren't
exactly.
they, that describe how
Yeah.
a task should
Yeah,
be completed.
Absolutely. So, you know, I mean, you could even say they're just like skill agents.
Yeah, I mean, I think one way we find helpful to describe is, you know, the way that you customize the tool to work for you,
Yes.
for your brand, your
Yeah.
team, you know, your process.
Yeah,
So it
absolutely.
understands your context, I guess.
But the other day, I had to take a AI maturity framework and I had to align it to core priorities of the business. And I knew that it was sitting in there, but because it's an externally facing framework, I had to then internalize it to show our internal operations team that it will drive certain business priorities. And I use GoWork to say, I need you to take this information here and this model, and I need you to bring it together so it demonstrates that it drives to the business priorities. I just mind dumped what I wanted it to look like, and it did it first time.
Bang. Yeah.
Literally, and I didn't have to make any changes.
Yeah.
The internal team were like, this is great, this is exactly what we needed. That would have probably taken me hours. And
Yeah.
I would have procrastinated, I would have overthought, I would have sat there and changed the box size a million times.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's so many great use cases, but I think to sort of summarize is we're moving away from prompting and just chatting and getting these suggestions to actually having a companion that can do stuff for us. And you know, it will be able to do emails, it'll be able to do meetings, it will be able to say, you know what my week looks like, plan my week for me, you know, optimize my time, prioritize my time, build this for me. Like it's endless, and I think it's super exciting.
We were talking just before we started recording a little bit about how this is as much a sort of cultural change as a technology
Yeah.
change. And I know Microsoft have released some research recently that kind of evidences that
Yes.
amongst the Copilot clients out there.
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And when I talk to a lot of brands, agencies, colleagues, you know, I'm very lucky. I work for Microsoft, and we're very close to this. And there's a lot of investment in us as individuals to really think about how we're using AI, what we want to achieve with AI, and how we, you know, play a really important role with building of like what AI will be in the future. But I think from a cultural point of view, there's a huge change management element for sure. But I think it's really important that you give your teams time to test and to play and be curious. And that's like, that can be training, that can be time, that can be giving them permission to build something, and if it doesn't work, it's okay, because you're probably still going to get a learning. But I think if you miss out that individual layer before you start to bring AI into your organization, you know, structurally and through workflows, you're not going to have built the skills and the energy around how you then need people to work alongside that.
Absolutely. This stuff's not a magic button, right? You've got to learn to work with it, and that's a skill that you've got to require. And it just takes time and familiarity, right? And you can't shortcut it, really.
And that's, again, what I say to a lot of people as well is, yes, I know there's a lot of fear sometimes, and people are a bit worried about what it's going to do and what it's going to take from us. But the one thing I say is, the thing you can control is you can learn to work alongside it.
Yeah.
Because if you can show up and show that you can work alongside it, you have value.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can move with your career, and you can do new things. So
and it's how professional work is going to get done these days, right?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Yeah. So thanks so much. So it's super exciting that co-work has come to Copilot now. I know all of our Copilot clients will be super excited about that. Second big announcement from Microsoft here is around the changes to your advertising platform.
Yes.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about that for some of our clients that are more perhaps on the media side?
Yeah. So this week, our sort of overarching sort of story, narrative, what we want to be sharing with our partners and our agencies and everyone that comes to the Microsoft Gardens space during the week of Cannes is around this AI economy. And we're talking about it in the sense that there's 3 eras of the web essentially right now. So you've still got your human web, where people are still, searching in a traditional way, but we need to think about ways to allow us to scale into those places and spaces through AI automation. So we have Copilot integrated into our Microsoft advertising platform so that users can talk natural language, manage their campaigns, drive performance. We have Ad Studio where you can build creative, you can develop video, and you can bring that into the more AI automated solutions, whether that be PMax or AI Max. So we're building a lot of functionality into the platform to make life easier and to be able to do that through natural language. So that's a really big piece. And we're also looking to sort of bring more of those experiences across our AI native search as well. So lots going on there. And then we kind of go to the middle, which is the LLM.
Yep.
And what we're doing there is...
You mean the LLM-enabled web here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini...
How are brands showing up?
Exactly. So, if we think about brands and visibility, visibility is really important. We need to be able to help brands, agencies, advertisers to be able to understand that visibility. But I think where we have to show up is we have to show you how to optimize. Because if we can't show you how to optimize, you can't test, you can't learn, and you can't make the right changes, right?
And this is one of the biggest challenges, right? It's a bit of a black box how you show up in these things.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have a tool called Clarity, which was initially a behavioral insights tool. It's still phenomenal at that. But it now has AI visibility built into it. So what we're showing brands is where they're being cited, where they're showing up, what their grounding queries are, where they have content gaps. So they can actually look at that data and they can actually drive a different strategy. They can see, well, what is AI pulling versus what's the human pulling? What is AI choosing? What content is working really well? Do I have out-of-date information? There's so many things that are being built to drive that. It's a great tool. I think it should be a tool that anybody uses. I think if I was to sort of think about agencies and how they're developing and evolving to support the brands, they have a really big opportunity to help brands to show up in the right spaces and places and be visible where they want to be visible. That links back to what their brand values are, what they want their consumers to think, feel. I think that all comes from this. And, actually this morning I was at a breakfast and, there was a talk and the lady said, yes, you want to be visible, but you want to be visible when the sentiment is positive.
Yeah, that's what I was coming to.
Yeah.
It's not just showing up, it's showing up the way you want to be seen.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. And I think, agencies have such a big opportunity to package all of this up, to look at the insight and to help brands to evolve but stay true to who they are through this evolution. Absolutely. And then the final one is agentic commerce. So we're showcasing our brand agent solution today, which is an agentic solution on your website that will enable your consumers to purchase your goods or services through conversational AI.
Right.
So it will...
So I wouldn't need to leave the Copilot interface, for example?
That's Copilot checkout. So
right.
Brand Agents is a turnkey AI shopping assistant on your website.
Okay.
but it behaves exactly how you would expect an AI assistant to. It can recommend products, it can upsell, it can cross-sell, it can do order tracking, and we are seeing really good results. So we see an aggregated level 2x conversions,
Wow.
and in some cases we see north of 5% increase in average cart size.
Great. So some of our web dev agencies
Yes,
could use this
absolutely.
technology to upgrade their clients' websites and
Absolutely.
improve the commerce experience.
Yeah, 100%.
Brilliant.
And then again, ingest those insights to what are the customers, like, not necessarily like exposing information that you shouldn't. I don't want that to come across at all, but learning about what your consumers are wanting from you.
Yeah.
And that's powerful, because then over time that can become more and more personalized. Because you're like, oh, Tracy, you're back. I know what you like. I know what you don't like.
Right. Yeah.
I know your values. I can give you personalization to meet those values, and that's really where we start to, in my opinion, personalize and deliver that to our consumers. You mentioned Copilot checkout, so we're also talking about UCP here this week as well. We have that built in our Microsoft Merchant Center, so that enables you to build the protocols and then move fully to the agentic experience, which is sort of where the agent will be able to do the product discovery, will be able to do the shipping and fulfillment, and be able to do the customer support. And then also take it all the way to the end where you can actually do the checkout within Copilot as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think we talk to clients about how agentic commerce is coming, and it seems like it really is now.
Yeah.
It's not just talking about it anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think just to sort of summarize, I feel like Microsoft Advertising is building the right tools, they're making them accessible, they're providing insights and data into a space that we're not familiar with, so that you can actually see what's happening, you can optimize, and we can then build strategies that work for these new eras. And I think the opportunity to partner alongside agencies to help them to do that with their customers in the way that they want to is really where we play, I think, a primary role.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tracy. Sounds like the party's getting started here. It's mid-afternoon here in Cannes. But thanks so much for giving us a bit of a walk through Microsoft's new evolving product set and how that's helping agencies. It's been super helpful for me. I'm sure it's been super helpful for our audience as well.
Yes, thank you very much for having me.
Enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thanks. Emma, you picked up an expression which I've been wondering what it means.
Yeah.
Brand is the new code. What's all that about?
This?
Yeah.
I love that line. So it's a slight change of subject here from what we've been talking about before, but this is about how people are now finding brands through agents as well, alongside as people finding brands through being people and finding them. So it's about, really, your brand now has a second reader. It has AI as a second person, second thing that's finding you. So it doesn't have feelings, but it does make real choices on behalf of people buying stuff.
Yeah, I mean, who's used ChatGPT or Gemini to help them make a purchase decision? What car should I get? Whatever it might be. I thought so. We have too.
Yeah, so you heard someone give a really good line for this. Jonah Goodhart Moby. No, from Moby. The Creative Nexus. Where is he from? Please say, because I'm confused by this.
From Moby, at a talk called The Creative Nexus. That's what that note means.
Well, it means to you, because you wrote it.
Yeah, so it's like having a new recipient that makes its own decisions and doesn't come back for your feedback. So if you're a brand and the bots are reading your website, how are you understanding what they're understanding, and how are you understanding how they're representing you back to a consumer?
So it's really interesting, I think, how the role of the CMO is starting to change, because now not just marketing to people, we're marketing to agents. So it kind of doubles that role, and consequently how we need to think about things in agencies too. And this isn't just something that people are talking about. It's here right now.
I think Webflow had a great stat on this. So actually at Beamer House, one of the panels was chaired by the marketing director of Webflow.
Yeah, Linda Tong.
Yeah. So she said, on Webflow, 8% of their referral traffic, 8% of their sign-ups are people who have reached them from an LLM, but the conversion rate of people who arrive on their landing page is much, much higher for people who have come via an LLM. In other words,
because it's been recommended
their buying decision is already largely made by that point. They're not in discovery anymore.
Yeah.
They're ready to purchase.
Yeah. I mean, we even see this in a microcosm at Spark.
Yeah, probably a quarter of our inquiries come from people who have found us through an LLM these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. So there was a lot of talk about this, meaning that the brand is back, but did it ever really go?
Did it ever go away? Yeah. I mean, something that I think is very interesting about this is obviously you're now having to outsource how a customer understands you to OpenAI or Google or whichever AI tool people are using. They're not necessarily reading your website, they're reading the AI summary of your website. And there are some publishers, news publishers, that are actually now taking Google to court over this because Google's AI summaries that come at the top of its search results can be inaccurate, like all LLMs. And they're saying that Google's reporting of news stories has quoted their stories but got them wrong, making them look factually inaccurate. And that Google now bears responsibility as a publisher because it's generating its own content, not just serving up other people's. So Google obviously is standing back saying, we're not a publisher, we just summarize other people's information. Is that true when you're using an LLM to summarize it? And a lot of people won't be clicking through to the original source anymore. So this might start to change how LLMs are regulated if they start to become publishers of news in this way and people start consuming their news through LLMs.
It's going to be really interesting to see the outcome of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next section was over to you again, Jules.
Yeah, what was this one about?
Well, I don't know, you took the end of my section there.
Okay. This one was all about transparency.
Yeah, it was.
So I was, this is quite interesting about what does it really take, coming back to the creative production piece again, is clients wanting transparency about how something has actually been created.
And this has been around a long time, since AI, really went mainstream.
Yeah, but I think a lot of agencies are still in a place where when the procurement department forces them to declare an AI policy, they'll hurriedly pull one together. But now, where AI is infusing itself into most of the projects that you deliver, you need to just be proactive in working this way anyway. So what does that mean? It means, first of all, being able to label what is AI content and what is not. So we're seeing that with the introduction of the parts of the EU AI Act are coming into force. So on the 2nd of August this year, all AI created content needs to have a digital watermark in it that is machine readable. It doesn't need to be transparent to consumers yet, although a lot of brands are choosing to do that anyway. But you do need to have a digital watermark in it, like Google SynthID, for example. And we've heard from creative production companies as well that clients are wanting to see all of the prompts that have gone into image or video work as well, and reference imagery, so they understand that there's not been any IP infringement in prompting or in reference imagery as well. So transparency around these kinds of things is important. So don't get yourself in a situation where you've committed to a project and then you're suddenly having to scramble around to do these things. Get the process in place now so that you're able to be transparent right from the front, right from the offset. So that's that.
Yeah. So the penultimate theme that we found from Cannes, which is really circling back to what we were talking about earlier, is that what's holding us back is really about us as people. And we talked about workflows earlier and the importance of redesigning those with AI.
Yeah.
But actually, there's kind of a more really simple way to think about it. And coming back to something that you said at the Network One panel, I don't like to inflate your ego too much, as listeners of this podcast know, but this is what you said, and it was great.
What a surprise!
Yes. You talked about the 3Ds of skills.
Yeah, we teach this in our workshops.
Yeah. So clients of ours will be familiar, but people that aren't clients might not be so much. But so the 3Ds are the key skills for now are for, firstly, describing a task well enough that AI gets it in the same way that you are meaning it to get it. So it really understands your intent.
Yep, so description. D number one.
Second D is discernment. So discernment about what it's good at and what it's bad at.
Yep, so using it for the right task, just like we talked about with those brand strategists earlier.
Just like we talked about removing decisions to the beginning, so you can decide what to use AI for and what not to. And then, thirdly, is deciding, that decision word again. Deciding what good looks like well enough to judge and refine. So
Yeah, and that's that tacit knowledge we talked about earlier. Often you know good when you see it. How can you describe good to AI?
but all three of those skills that are needed today to work well with AI are just all about judgment. Nothing of those in those is technical necessarily.
Yeah, none at all of those are technical. I mean,
Yeah.
this is all about just, working with AI well is almost like working with a person well. You've got
Yeah.
to be able to describe what it is you're really trying to do, make sure they've got the resources they're going to need to be able to accomplish the task. You've got to be able to give them good feedback about where their output is strong and where it's weak. It's all the stuff that makes a good manager, is what makes you good at working with AI.
Absolutely. Yeah. But if you are a leader listening to this, like what should you do about it as well as having those three skills and as well as ensuring that you're growing those skills in your team? Well, a good place to start is with yourself.
Yeah.
You saw a talk where I can't remember Joanna's surname, but Joanna
Joanna
is the CEO
Trippett, from
from
CEO of Debt Europe. Yeah.
yeah. She was saying that no leader can credibly lead AI transformation without using the products themselves. She was encouraging everyone to use Claude that weekend. It may have been a bit too hot and canned to use it that weekend. Um, and to use co-work like we were talking about earlier, and to really see for themselves how agents are changing how we work and the potential of it. Otherwise, how can you possibly brief or scope something if you don't know yourself?
Yeah, and it's very hard for you to be credible encouraging your team to adopt this technology if you're not really adopting it yourself. And we see this time and again with the agencies we work with. The ones that make the biggest progress are the ones where the leadership team are leading by example, and they are aware of where the tools are strong and encouraging their team to exploit that power.
And would you also say it's true that we always encourage the leaders of each team to be in our workshops with the team?
Absolutely,
Would you
yeah.
say that our clients that have leaders in the room as well make more progress?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we try to get, when we run our leadership programs, each of the people on that leadership stream are in one of our skills streams too. So if you're a client service director, you might sit on your leadership team and your AI task force, but you've also got to learn how to work with this stuff so you know what your team are doing.
So,
Cool.
well, so we just had another collapse of our little gizmo who's recording us.
Yeah, just put him in the fridge for
again.
5 minutes and he's good to go.
It's the third time it's been in the fridge during this recording.
Right.
It's a good trick.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
The final section on pricing models is actually becoming real.
Yeah, so pricing, there was a lot of chat about pricing, even in sessions that weren't meant to be about pricing. So
Yeah.
everyone, it comes up in our leadership workshops all the time too. Everyone's starting to struggle with this. So, AI puts pressure on the time and materials pricing model. You invest a bunch of time in AI enabling your agency to be able to deliver things more quickly, only then for your client to turn around and hammer you on price because things take less time. So you have built the trap that you've then walked into. So how do you get around that? And there's a lot of talk about different pricing models, moving away from input-based pricing. So Joanna Trippett, again, who we mentioned earlier, the CEO of Debt Europe, talked about how output-based pricing is now pretty common in the way that they work. So defining it based on deliverables and fixed price deliverables. The big one that everyone's been trying to talk about is outcome-based pricing, where you tie your fee to some metric in the client's success. The reality is that's super, super hard to do.
Who was it that said they don't now bid for anything that's like procurement led and kind of time and materials?
Yeah, this was Anne Stagg, the CEO of Digitas UK, in the same panel actually at BEMA, where she was saying, yeah, where they're pitching and they realise it's going to be very procurement led and they're going to be expected to show rate cards, they often walk away from the pitch now because they're not able to demonstrate their value well enough working that way. So bold move.
So they're obviously able to get enough work without doing that.
Yeah, they're obviously able to do it, and I think it's very hard for us to walk away from work. But sometimes if it's not a good fit and the client doesn't recognise the value of what you're doing, sometimes it's the best thing to do. We recently decided not to pitch for something for exactly that reason. The second thing that came up, which I thought was quite interesting, is one of the things we get, especially in the creative programs that we run, is how do we charge for the cost of running the models? anyone who's done serious AI production knows that you can rack up hundreds and sometimes thousands of pounds in token costs for generating a 90-second film, for example, because you've generated hundreds of clips, each of which might cost you £3 a pop. So I thought this was quite interesting, was somebody saying, don't put tokens on your invoice to your client because all you're doing is making them pay for your inefficiency.
Yeah, and that was from...
You were at this talk.
Yeah, I was. That was from the head of WPPX.
Yeah,
And
so that's quite an interesting thing, like this is where you've got to go into fixed cost deliverables, and then the onus is on you to do that efficiently and use those token costs well.
I thought it was really interesting, saying that you're actually just charging people for the risk of your team not being able to use AI efficiently.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And I think in that same talk, 61% of agencies record AI as a cost rather than an investment in capability, and I think that's really the flip that people are starting to make.
If you are charging people for tokens, it does start to make people think like that.
Yeah, and ultimately, what the question you really need to be asking yourself is this actually helping you do better work? Because if the work isn't better, you can't charge for it.
And there's no point doing that.
Yeah. So there we go. So lots of talk about pricing and how it's changing the model, and everyone's coming to grips with it. Not just, with marketing teams that are commissioning agencies are trying to understand this too.
Yeah.
So
what did we talk about?
That's it this week. So Emma, wrap it up.
Yeah, I'm just going to recap what we talked about. We talked about cultural change being the hardest part, not choosing which models.
100%.
We talked about how just using AI in creative is just a norm now.
Yeah, stop talking about it as being AI. Just talk about it as creative.
Yeah. We talked about it's all about workflows. That's not just for McKinsey.
The W word is now mainstream. It's official.
It's all about really good workflow design in your business.
Yeah, change the work to suit the way AI needs you to work.
Yeah. And how AI is really changing business models and pricing.
Yeah, have that conversation. Start with new clients. That's always easiest.
Yeah.
But over time, you're going to need to change your legacy clients too.
So just a reminder, all this and more actually is in our newsletter, which came out last week. We'll put the link to it in the show notes.
Link in the show notes.
Yeah.
It's been a lovely afternoon here in Suffolk. Very hot. Our poor little
hot.
DJI Osmo melted twice. He spent 10 minutes in the fridge today. I think I'm going to go and get in there now.
You are, but we're going out for dinner with a work contact tonight, so you can't.
Oh, 10 minutes?
Nope.
Oh well, never mind. Thanks everyone. See you next time.
See you soon.